Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Process Podcast. Ant Haynes, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Good. Been a while since our last podcast. A long old while.
It has. I'm in a different location, a different country, in a very different point in my season and life right now. But yeah, it's been a long time.
Where are you right now?
Currently, I'm in a hotel room in downtown Chicago. I'm currently sat looking out the window. I can't turn my laptop around, but it's been an amazing day. Blue skies. It's been very different from the last 4 months of Dubai, which is sunny, 43 degrees Celsius, but like it's sand. And although it's sunny and I love the sun, I love the heat, I love the summer, it's not the same as looking at like a blue sky. I genuinely didn't see a blue sky once in Dubai, apart from the day after they did some, I think it's called cloud seeding, where they basically shoot stuff into the sky to brew up thunderstorms, and then it literally drips, 3 or 4 drips for like a little period, and then next day it was a little bit blue and went back to sandy. But like having the perspective to look deep is really nice. So yeah, blue skies and a bit of nature over here versus the Dubai desert and sand and heat's been very nice.
Isn't it so cool that they can just shoot shit into the sky and make it rain?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They did it at the Beijing Olympics when you and I went. When they tried to clear the pollution to the sky, they were shooting up stuff to suck it. I don't know. I'd do that, zero justice. And if anyone listening actually knew what was going on, just be upset with me. So shoot something into the sky, sucks in pollution, falls to the ground.
Yes. Well, I mean, I would say that my rundown of what's happening is even worse than yours. Chicago is a beautiful city, though. I remember when we went to CrossFit Games, after I think you and Tammy had gone to Denver, me and Mum went to Chicago and spent a few days there, and actually would say it's probably one of my favorite cities I've ever visited.
Yeah, it's bloody cool. The river that goes down the middle of it is sick. Like today was the first day we walked by the lake today.
So cool.
Which doesn't look like a lake. When I think about a lake, I'm like, I'm gonna be able to see the other side of it. And I'm sitting there looking at a lake. I'm like, fuck, this thing is absolutely ginormous. And all the boats that are out on the lake are just because it's Saturday today, they are having like a wild party. And I know it sounds terrible, but right now, at my point of season, all I wanted to do is literally swim out to one of those boats and just hop on a boat and have some good old American beers with the guys and gals out there. But like those boats are going up and down the river. The river, even on the first night we got here, Wednesday night, all the restaurants, all the bars are like packed with people. I don't know if they're tourists, I don't know if they're locals, but it's packed, it's kicking off, and it's really cool to see, especially after the last 3 years of the pandemic and COVID and stuff. It's really cool to see everyone out and about and socializing and not giving a stuff about the pandemic.
So I guess a question we haven't addressed is, why are you in America in the first place?
Yeah, so I guess I'll go back a few months. So after 22.3, the thruster bar muscle up workout, I basically went straight to the airport and flew out to Dubai. The reason for that was, number one, it was basically a pandemic thing. The Hong Kong government, for those that don't know, had put us into lockdown until April 21st. So I was useful to some extent being in Hong Kong, but I could really do my job and do everything that I was providing to the team in Coastal Fitness and the process programming whilst being remote on my laptop. And obviously, if I wanted my season to run smooth, basically getting out of Hong Kong would remove any sort of external stress of the Hong Kong government locking down gyms. And, the main problem was the quarterfinals is coming up. There's been rope climbs. I was just a bit worried that if it was a rope climb event, we got 14-foot ceilings at the gym at Coastal. So every year we've gone to, Fitness Playground, been very, very, very good to us and, hosted us each year. But I just thought that maybe if they didn't want to host us, I couldn't complain about that because of the government rules. And, it's essentially illegal to do that. So I flew out to Dubai. Lee Coates, who's one of our athletes at the process program in Coastal and a personal training client of mine for the last few years, she was in a very similar boat. She has ambitions to compete at the CrossFit Games just like I do. She wanted to take her season seriously. This year, she just moved up from the 54 category. She just moved into the 55. So essentially, she's the youngest in her category, which is obviously a big deal, especially when you get towards the older ages of the age group. It's not so much when you're moving from a 35 into the 36, but when you go to the 55s, like things start to scale a little bit. We'll get onto that later anyway. But so I encouraged her to come over and do the same. She followed me over a week later. So both of us being based in Dubai. We did both the quarters and the semifinals. She did her virtual semifinals at CrossFit Goliath. I flew over to Korea, did my semifinals there, flew back to Dubai. Unfortunately, I didn't make it via the Korean semifinals, but I had the last chance qualifier. Didn't make it through the last chance qualifier, decided to stay on anyway because I am Lee's coach and a representative of the Process Program in Coastal. And she, it's nice to help her out. And I know she wanted me there. And I just said, you know what? I'd love to stay. I'd love to help you. I'd love to go back to the CrossFit Games, whether it's in a coaching capacity or not. So yeah, after my last chance qualifier, we had a couple more weeks of training for her, just a bit of rest and recovery for me. And here we are in Chicago. 2 days time on Monday the 1st, we'll drive into Madison and check in, and off she goes on a CrossFit Games journey.
Ridiculous. How long has it been now since you've been out of Hong Kong?
Whenever 22.3 was released. So I guess the end of February, beginning of March, probably around then.
So I think we're looking at really like kind of
like 5 to 6 months.
Half a year on the road.
Crazy. I've literally been living out of a suitcase, which is now turned into like 3 suitcases, but I've been basically living out of a suitcase for the last 6 months. The last 2 months is basically being on a sofa. I'm on a sofa now, even though we're in a hotel room, trying to save a bit of money. Chicago downtown is not a cheap area to stay. So yeah, I'm happy. As you know, I'm fairly resilient with this sort of stuff. I'm fairly unbothered with this sort of thing. I'm happy to sleep on the couch. If there's a floor, then I can probably sleep on the floor if I wanted to. But she's in the master bedroom in there, and she got a king size bed, even though she's a garden gnome. And yeah, it's all about her being comfortable, her, getting the best setup possible to perform in next week.
And just let's quickly talk about Lee and your role as a coach with her. Like, how are you enjoying that change up, going to the CrossFit Games, going back to the games? Last time you were there, you were competing. What's it like now, being, I guess, in position that I was with you as you were competing and being the coach? How have you enjoyed that experience? What have you learned? Is it something you want to keep on doing?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, it's been like a massive privilege to be able to coach someone in that position. I say this all the time to Lee, and we reminisce about it quite a lot. And I've always said to her, like, she's always been a bubble games athlete. She's kind of in that category now, and this is no disrespect to her or the other ladies or other men who are in that category, but like that older age group is like kind of the last part of the age group that I guess don't take it as seriously as the rest. Everyone else kind of trains twice a day. They have nutritionists, they have masseuses. This is like full time for pretty much everyone else. And below that, but the kind of 55 and up is kind of like, I strolled into a CrossFit gym a few years ago, and I'm just pretty damn good at it, and that's why I can get to where I am. But I've said to her, like, it's been amazing to watch her throw all her eggs into one basket and really attack this. And the results show, and it's been amazing for her. I mean, the physical side of training, it's different. Obviously, when she started preparing for the online competitions, the quarterfinals and semifinals, we roughly know what that's going to look like because of last year's competitions. So that's quite easy to coach someone with. You have previous data. When you get to the CrossFit Games, it's like anything goes. Of course, again, you have previous data, and we've done plenty of tests, whether it's replica tests of what she might be doing from previous years, or it's like taking implements or pieces of equipment, or the way they set up the floor, or the way you do like a run, and the run's not a flat run, it's a hilly run, and then you come back into an area. We've really exposed her to as much of that as possible, because really she hasn't done that. She's essentially been confined to the 4 walls of a gym for her entire CrossFit journey for the last 5 to 6 years. So that's been really fun, doing the physical side of things. That like I said, I didn't make it through the last chance qualifier, so a few times she's asked me to like join in with a workout for her. We basically simulated the ruck run one day, and she was dreading it. And we did it in Dubai outside, and it was like 45 degrees Celsius, and I was getting her to put on 2 weight vests because we didn't have a bag to simulate the actual ruck. And she was hating it. So it's been cool to actually join in on the physical side of it. I think the The biggest side of things actually is the emotional, the psychological, and the mental side of things when it comes to coaching Lee. She's a 55-year-old woman. Sorry, I know she'll be hating me for telling everyone how old she is, but she's going to be on a leaderboard in that category anyway. But these are things that she's never really thought about. When it comes to competing, it's kind of just like, oh, well, that's just how it is. I'll just sweep it under the rug and let's deal with it later. But it actually has come back to bite her in the ass, and it's eating her a little bit. It's rearing its ugly head. We can get into that stuff later on of actually what it is, probably on another podcast. But things like trying to help her out, trying to drag these things out of her so she can realize the way that she talks and the way that she holds herself and her self-esteem and her self-belief. That's been the biggest work on that we've been trying to get to. Like I said, she's amazing physically. I give her a hard time. I give most people a hard time, to be honest, but I give her a hard time about her physical capabilities. And sometimes I actually take a step back and I'm like, fuck, it's incredible that a 55-year-old woman is doing 5 unbroken ring muscle ups and then pissing off down the road for an 800-meter run and coming back in and doing a 20-meter unbroken handstand walk. I'm like,
if I can do an air squat at 54, I'd genuinely be stoked.
I know it's actually crazy. And she's like still hitting PRs. She's still getting better. She's still learning to do. Like I said, the physical side of stuff is been great. It's been fun to do, but the mental side of things is, definitely for me as a coach, it's been more of a newer challenge for me. I've never really spent this much time. It's basically been 5 months I've spent with Lee trying to, every single day I'm seeing her. So it's we've definitely grown together. We've grown individually for sure, but we've definitely grown together as a coach athlete and definitely a friendship for sure. I understand her a lot more. I also pick up on all her tendencies that she does inside out the gym, just in daily life. And it's been cool. And I'm enjoying that challenge of trying to help with the emotional and the mental side of things as well. But I think that's been the biggest takeaway out of coaching Lee as a CrossFit Games athlete.
I mean, this is something that I experienced, the more and more I got into coaching, especially working with people like in and around competitions and the competition mindset and the mental side of things. Do you find, obviously you've got so much to give to an athlete because you are yourself an athlete who goes through a lot of the same challenges and a lot of the same trials and tribulations, but has now working with Lee for this period of time, has that actually helped you more as an athlete yourself? Has it gone kind of full circle? There are things that you've taken out of Lee's journey and the way you've been able to help her navigate competition that's actually kind of reinforced or helped you be a better athlete, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it will probably reflect a bit more in the 2023 season because a lot of the closer working together has kind of happened after career, which is, I guess, really the end of my season, essentially. And I think, I see a lot of myself in her, in some of the words that she says and some of her mannerisms, not around life, but around attacking workouts, around the CrossFit Games, around possible pressures, around mindset going into things, negative, positive headspace, all that sort of stuff. I see it a lot, so I can empathize with it as well. And I can also be like, fuck, I actually did that, a few weeks ago when I was in career, or I did that in 2019 when I was at the games. And, just trying to listen to her. And then, sometimes I give advice and sometimes I give feedback in my opinion, but sometimes it's just like, just sit there and listen to it. But like I said, I think a lot of that will kind of come into play when I go into my next season again. A lot of it's been like, this is obvious. Like, why can't you see this? But a lot of the time, like, well, fuck, I actually did that as well. So I can't say it's obvious until like you can actually have a conversation with someone else, whether it's your coach or a friend or your husband or your wife, girlfriend, like, and they can actually make you see what you're saying and what you're feeling and what you're doing on a daily basis. You could be doing that same shit for the last 2 years and you wouldn't know any different until you had to change it. So it's I'm sure there'll be a lot of things that I'm going to do, and she'll probably be able to call me out when I'm in the gym. She'll be like, oh, you fucking told me when we were across the games, I can't do this, and you're doing the same shit now. But fuck, yeah, that's fair. So, I think, the more people that can understand that, the easier it is for the other person. If we have like a very similar connection with that sort of stuff, then, just like you and I do, I guess, as a coach and athlete relationship, then even as just a friendship, that can help pull out that sort of thing. when you get to these tougher times.
Are there any specific examples that you can think of right now? Realizations that perhaps you've had since working
Yeah,
with her?
like just listening. Today we sat down and had a coffee before training. This is essentially today was her second last training session before the CrossFit game training session. Tomorrow will be her last one as we travel on Monday. And she got quite. I was just basically asking her. I said, "Look, what can I do for you come game time? Or what do you need from me? Where do you need me to be? What do you need me to say? And what do you want from me? Like, I'll basically do whatever it is. If you need me to fucking carry your sweaty knee sleeves in your belt, I can do it. If you need me to cook your food, I can do it. If you need me to be an ear to listen to, I can do it. If you need me to create a strategy, I can do it. Or whatever it is. If you need me to be at the end of your lane every single time you race, I'll get there. Whatever." So we kind of spoke about that. And then, after we spoke about the physical side of things, what I could do, I said, "What else can I give you? What can I give you more?" And I could see she started like welling up a little bit. She had her big old Gucci sunglasses on, but I could see there's a few tears and like a bit of glassing in the eye. So I just kind of let her sit and talk. And again, I no disrespect to Lee, but she's not really in tune with this stuff. And when in terms of connecting and allowing other people in to listen, like I said before, and what I briefly mentioned is kind of like sweep it under the rug and it will be fine when I get there. And if it's not, then oh well. And I'm trying to teach her, there's an easier way to go about this. Like there's a way that we can release that and actually let it go and allow ourselves to be ourselves. And then, perform out there. For her, it's pressure. So pressure free. So, one thing she said today and something that I can definitely relate to and be empathetic with is the fact that she's feeling a lot of pressure. What pressure are you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling pressure from you. And so, yeah, okay, that's understandable. The coastal community back home, the process program community back home, the Alliance community she's just been a part of for the last 4 months. Family are all flying over. 2 daughters are coming over to watch. She missed her daughter's 18th birthday. She missed one of her other daughter's graduation. I've sacrificed all these things and I'm going to get out there and I'm going to flop. And then what? And, I can definitely relate to those feelings of like, fuck, I got all these people coming to watch me and I almost fucking bombed out in the first workout. Jesus, like time to pull my fucking finger out and do something about it. But, those are all feelings that I kind of pent up myself and didn't really talk about it. Definitely now that I reflect back, for sure, I had those feelings a bit more. But in the time in 2019 when I was competing, I didn't really feel it that much. But now I think back, looking at her talking about it and me picking her brain talking about it, I was like, I can see how I had kind of put up a wall and be like, it's fine. Like I'll be fine. I definitely think I'm definitely a different athlete to her and I have different experiences and I've competed at the highest level of multiple sports. So I definitely have more experience to draw on when it comes to that sort of thing. But, the pressure was still felt for sure. And I don't think I really let anyone in properly at that time to maybe offload some of that. And that could have definitely helped my performance. It could have just helped ease anxiety or any sort of stress I might have had at the time. But that's like an example we had today.
Yeah, nice. I mean, I think in that example that you shared, it's like unpacking the things that you really felt in the moment. It's a tough one because sometimes actually in the moment you don't have the time to unpack, and you do sometimes just have to put on a brave face and grit through and tell people it's going to be okay. But at some point, whether it's after the fact or if you get moments during the event to actually sit with your thoughts and be real with them, and just to say like, okay, this is something I'm feeling right now. Why is this? I need to sit into this. I need to lean into this. And what can I change? I just had a good conversation with Lee myself, just to kind of, I guess, have a final check and just be like, how you doing? How you feeling? And all those things that you just shared with the same things that she shared with me. And, I can definitely resonate with a lot of them as well myself, from our rugby days, but also, in the competitions that I've done in CrossFit as well. And I said, I think one really important thing is that, we get so pulled into creating and fabricating these stories of what might happen. And it's draining. It's like it drains your energy. It saps from everything you actually need, which is you actually want as many resources as possible on game day to actually just be able to do the best performance you could possibly do. And I said, you can always ask yourself the question, is this thing that I'm thinking, number one, is this a thought? or is this just is this real? Separating, is this fact or is this fiction? That's a really important first thing. If it's fiction, it's something I'm just fabricating in my head that hasn't happened yet. I'm creating an outcome to something that hasn't even occurred. If it's fiction, it's like, okay, this is actually happening right now. And I guess the next question is like, is it something I can control or is it something I can't control? And I think when you realize, number one, when things are fiction and when you realize that things are outside of your control, you have no choice but just to let go. You just got to let go of that stuff. But if there's things that are actually within your control and that are facts, then actually, okay, perhaps you need to sit with this and you need to lean into it and figure out, what can be done to help you through this. And the second thing I gave her, when I spoke to her, was, this idea of, the pressure we put on ourselves to perform, or the pressure we put on ourselves to achieve an outcome because of the fear of letting people down. And so I actually used an example for you. And I said, can I ask you, when Ant went to Korea and Ant didn't end up qualifying to the CrossFit Games, how did you feel? She said, oh, I was gutted for him. I said, yeah, no, me too. Were you disappointed in him? She said, no, I absolutely wasn't disappointed in him. I said, yeah, me neither. But can I ask you, 24 hours later, were you still thinking about how gutted you were for Ant? No, I had my own training I had to do. Yeah. Life rolls on. A day passes by, and I said, I even know Ant. He was gutted about it, but a day went by, 2 days went by, and he wasn't thinking about career anymore. He was thinking, okay, I've got the next job, which is last chance qualifier, and that is kind of what life is, isn't it? It's just this series of opportunities for learning. But number one, when we create expectations and we create these ideas in our head that everyone else has an expectation on us, we've all got our own shit in life to worry about. We've all got our own problems. We all got our own stresses we need to navigate. A day goes by, an hour goes by, and we move on. And I said, even if you won the CrossFit Games, Lee, even if you won the CrossFit Games, a week would go by. No one's going to be talking about you winning CrossFit Games. Everyone's going to be asking you, so what's next season? You're going to be thinking, what's my next 12 months going to look like? And life just moves on. Isn't it funny? What do you think?
No, I totally agree. And that's definitely something that, and another thing that we've been trying to work on. Like, she likes to dwell on things. But a lot of the time, like as you said, she doesn't unpack it once it's happened. Some people can do that in an hour. Some people need weeks, months, years, maybe. But there's a lot of things that she has done in the past and experiences she's had, and she's just kind of pushed it to the side and like hope it hasn't come back. So no, I totally agree there. I think I can a lot of the time unpack pretty well, pretty quick, and just move on. I definitely know there's some other things that I do what I just said Lee does, which is kind of stick it in a box and chuck it to the back of my mind and just hope it doesn't come back. But yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah. It was, and it's even like it's even this idea that, okay, leading into something stressful, and I think people listening to this, if they're not competing, it's we have other stressful things that we do in our lives. Maybe it's a public talking event, maybe it's dealing with your social anxiety and going to a party, maybe it's like signing up to the CrossFit gym or the training facility that you've been scared to join and you're stepping in there for the very first time. It's like these waves of anxiety, these waves of fear, these waves of self-doubt that kind of hit you. It's unrealistic to think they're not going to be there. Like, those things are going to come. When you put yourself out there to do something hard, those things are going to come. Like, it's totally normal as part of the process. But again, just when they do come, just asking yourself that question: is this fact or is this fiction? Is it something in my control? Is it something outside my control? And just letting go. It doesn't mean they're not going to come, though. Those things are going to come. And speaking to someone like Lee, it's like, I said to her, I was like, these are going to come every day, every hour, until the moment you step on that competition floor for your first workout. And like everyone says, you get that first one done and like it will change. Like the fact that you've just been out there, you've done it, you'll realize that all the stories you've created in your head, actually none of it matters. At the end of the day, you just got to show up, be present, give your best effort, create a strategy. You got someone in your corner and who's been there, done this thing just like you have, and 100 more times over. Like, you've done everything you could possibly do now. Now it's just another Saturday test at the process programming, doing it with your friends and working out. It's no different to that. But I think a big part of that as well is that when you're, so a lot of people lean into this idea where it's like, okay, I just got to get that first event done. I've just got to get, or whatever the thing is, I just got to get it done, and then I'll be okay. But if we're not leaning in to the thoughts that are coming in our mind in the lead up to it, we could be burning and wasting so much energy, so many resources just by worrying about this thing and not asking ourselves those questions: fact, fiction, control, uncontrollable. And what happens that we get to game day, we've got nothing left. We've got no resources left to actually compete. And so, I said, like, whilst we know that after that first event, you're going to be feeling great, it's important that you do spend some time thinking about these thoughts, and let go. Because if you can let go, it means you're going to have a lot more resources and energy available on game day to actually do the thing you're here for, which is to get out there and have some fun, compete, give it your best effort. Sure. And at the end of the day, why do we do this shit? Because we're going to learn something about ourselves. That's really it. It's not about the outcome. It's another unique opportunity in life to learn something.
Yeah, totally agree. But on top of all of that, I think I'm super excited to get to see her out there, and see her give it a crack and show the world what she's been working on for the last, I guess 4 or 5 years with us anyway.
Yeah.
But a few years before that without us. And yeah, I'm just excited to see her be able to showcase that.
Yeah. I just want to see her out there having a bloody good time, having fun, and just learning something about herself. I know it's going to be, regardless of the outcome, I think we can all agree, like, it doesn't matter where she finishes, what it looks like, as long as, the fact that she's there is already unbelievable, and life will move on.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, and I want to talk about you and semifinals. I think most of our listeners will have watched you, competing in Korea as you were, vying for your chance to get back to CrossFit Games. Mm-hmm. And I would love to actually talk, a very similar vein to what we talk about with Lee, like just more in the mental aspect of what the process of competing is like. And obviously you've been in this sport now for 9 years. 9 years of competing.
9 years,
yeah, 8 to 9 years of competing at more or less the highest level. You've been at regionals every single year, so kind of one step off from the CrossFit Games. And so, one would have to assume that you're becoming, you're building more and more strategies and tools to be able to navigate like the mental challenges of competition. And I would just love to hear for you to share kind of like what it's like going through a competition like the semifinals of Korea, the battles, the challenges, the questions, the doubts, the fears, how you navigated them, if you navigated them. Maybe some of them actually, did affect you. And I'd love to hear about those. So kind of want to work through this chronologically, setting the scene first. You're in Dubai, you've been training hard for semifinals. You had a really great quarterfinals, did enough to basically lock your ticket to the semis. You fly over to Korea. How many days before the competition was it? About 3 days?
Well, we stuffed up our visa. So yeah, it's supposed to be 4 days before, but we had 3 days. Yeah.
So my first question is that, and I know this is a really hard question to ask when an athlete has just finished competing, but it's been quite a while now. So imagine you've had a lot of time to sit on it and think about it. But now looking back, how are you feeling? Genuinely, how are you feeling going into the weekend?
I was excited, to be honest. I was very excited. I was, I haven't competed really in person, virtually or anything I had done, but hadn't competed in person for almost 3 years. I hadn't any spectators or anything watch me compete. And that was definitely exciting. I didn't really have any anxiety about that. I was like just stoked to be there.
Can I just interrupt you real quick though? When you say excited, like what are you excited about?
I'm excited to test myself side by side with other athletes is basically what I want to do. Because that at the end of it, that's also the name of the game, is to test yourself. And if you're in front of them, then you're going to get the outcome that you're there for. Which for me was, to take the one of the top two spots. But yeah, like I was excited to be in a competition floor. I was excited to test myself against other people, whether they were superstars or unknowns, it doesn't matter. I was excited to see where I was as well. I've gone through a couple of injuries over the last few years, and like I said, I hadn't performed for 3 years, so I wanted to know if I also was still able to do it. there's definitely some doubts running through my mind that maybe I'm too old to do this now. Maybe the sport's gotten away from me a little bit. I see people on social media and Instagram, and these guys are chucking about a lot of weight or moving around these workouts really fast, and all I see is a leaderboard and their Instagram and their highlight reel. And I was like, fuck, maybe this is like my time. Maybe this is it. Maybe I'm done after this. I don't know really where I sit. So that was definitely something going into it, but I wasn't too scared and nervous about that. I was more excited because I felt my body felt good and my mind felt right going into it. I didn't feel too much anxiety from that side of things.
So yeah, just to clarify, so the excitement is an excitement to test yourself and see what you're really capable of. And I guess this is specifically like in a live arena based competition, because you've been testing yourself. You'd already tested yourself at this point numerous times throughout the season. You'd obviously had the CrossFit Open quarterfinals, so you knew kind of where you stood, but so wanted to test yourself. And the other part is actually like the actual excitement of competing against other people.
Yeah.
But can I ask though, like, is there amongst that excitement, is there nerves? Is there anxiety? Is there like a part of you that's scared? Is there a part of you that's doubting, like, should I be doing this shit? Or should I just be staying at home?
There always is. There is. I guess it's like, you weigh up the pros and cons of any situation in any decision you ever make in your life. There's always a pro and con to it, or multiple. And in a situation like that, when I was in Korea, stood on the start mat, I think for me, the pros so heavily outweighed the cons that I don't even think about the cons at that point anymore. I'm just so excited to be out there. Yes, like I said before, like maybe I'm irrelevant in this sport. Maybe my score is going to be a bottom score out of the 30 to 40 athletes, and I'm going to end up being in the first heat at the end of this. And like, what am I doing here? That's like a huge waste of money. It's a huge waste of people's support and time, and my own time and money and effort. And those are all things that had been going through my head every now and then. They weren't consuming me, but I definitely thought about them. But like I said, once I got to Korea and I saw the competition, then when it was being set up and we sat down for our first meeting, I feel like the positive side of my thoughts were so heavily outweighing the negative that I just didn't even think about them anymore.
And what are those pros? Like, what are those pros that you're, saying like, yeah, this is exactly what I should be doing? What are some of those things?
Yeah, I think firstly, the way it makes you feel. Like, I'm happy when I'm out there. I'm not like fucking dreading stepping on the floor. Like, oh God, like, can't believe Ed's forced me to go to competition. It's not like that. It's like, I'm happy I've chosen to do it. I feel like this is where I belong. I feel confident in myself. I have self-belief. And yeah, I guess, a lot of it for me is like having a smile on your face while you're doing it, and enjoying yourself and having it like as a core memory going forward. If I look back and I'm like, fuck, I don't know why I did that. I was stupid. I didn't enjoy that at all. It was a waste of time. Even if I'm still saying this with the knowledge that I didn't achieve the goal that I wanted, but I'm still saying that I feel happy now. Like, retrospectively looking back, I'm still happy that I did it all. I'm still stoked with how I performed in certain workouts and how I went through the weekend. So yeah, I guess it's like a feeling of belonging as well, being within that circle, and yeah, being able to do what I love.
Can I ask, if I just rewind a little bit here, with the thing we were talking about with Lee, something that Lee really fears going into this weekend was, the expectations of others and what they might think if the outcome is perhaps not being on the podium or not, achieving her goal of whatever that goal is. It's even interesting though, in your own language, you're saying as well that you have those fears. It's like, you have those fears. I might be in the first heat. I might not be performing well, not be punching my ticket to the CrossFit Games. And, I'm going to let down the people that are supporting me and trying. So that is still actually something that you're dealing with even now.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think with just the way that this year has panned out, with me being in Dubai for so long, taking so long off work, taking so long away from, like my relationships with my family, with Tammy back home, and with the company and my friends. And there's a lot of things that I've basically lowered on my priority list in order to push up competing in this athletic endeavor that I'm chasing. And, I guess a feeling, I was speaking to Tammy about this the other day. I guess a feeling was, and still is now, is almost like a feeling of embarrassment when I don't reach my goal. Some people are very informed, some people are very misinformed. Oh, you're going to qualify easy. It's going to be easy for you. You'll smash it out the park, sort of thing. Very misinformed people have no idea what's going on. They just know that you're a competitor and you're pretty good and you'll probably stand a chance of qualifying. And then you have other people as well who probably ask you the same question, like, is this going to be your last year? Like, you're getting a bit older now. Like, what do you want to do after this? So that definitely feeds into like some negative self chatter that happens. And yeah, I've even over the last few weeks, just being in Chicago here and dropping into gyms and seeing other competitors, and this is something that I have to deal with and I have to try and work around. Is like, a lot of people will come to me about, oh, I know who you are. Are you preparing for the CrossFit Games? I'm training whilst Lee's warming up or whatever. And for me to stand there and be like, oh no, I'm not competing this year. They're like, why the hell are you here? I'm like, oh, I'm actually a coach this year. And they're like, oh, well, did you compete this year? Like, yeah, I tried, and I didn't make it. And you're going over like the same story over and over again to each person that comes up, because there's so many competitors in the sport. Some people just forget or just don't know. So yeah, like having to deal with that, sometimes I definitely feel like almost a sense of embarrassment about that people's perception of me is like, you should have qualified, or why aren't you there anymore? Like, you should be there. And I totally understand that. I'm not embarrassed at my effort. I'm not embarrassed about how I held myself when I went through my competitions and my opportunities to compete. I'm not embarrassed about the steps that I've taken this year to put myself in the best position possible to succeed. But then for sure, when these people ask that question, like, I have like the little devil on my shoulder who's saying like, hey, like, you're a fuck up. You didn't qualify. You shouldn't have gone to Dubai. You should have been in Hong Kong. That was all a waste of time. Why are you even in Chicago? Just fucking go back to Hong Kong. Let Lee do her thing. It's something that I kind of stumbled across over the last few months. Been trying to deal with that a little bit. Yeah.
And how do you separate, how do you separate the opinions that matter and the opinions that don't? Because I think that's something that a lot of people fear when they put themselves out there. Is that, I was speaking to someone yesterday. I was fortunate enough to be interviewed by someone who's building a podcast and a YouTube channel, and one of the things that she was really scared of is that she knows that when she puts herself out there, she's worked in PR and marketing for her entire life, but more as like an anchor and a host. But now knowing that she's in charge of this thing, she's putting herself out there for criticism, and she's scared of that. Like, so how do you separate those two, and how do you stay, how do you take the things that you should be listening to and ignore the things that you shouldn't?
Yeah, I guess it comes with, Brene Brown always talks about the man in the arena, or the person who puts himself out there, and people who actually understand what you're doing. Although I appreciate people asking about my journey, a lot of the time it's just like, it's a nice interaction and that's about it. I'm not actually taking much from that, apart from the fact that you are interested in what I'm doing. That's about it. When other people actually, who know what I'm doing, who know why I'm here, and they're actually invested in my journey, those are the people whose opinions matter. For the people who are just like walking into the gym and they know that I'm at CrossFit Alliance because I'm trying to go to semifinals, and they're just like, they say whatever they say when they walk past, like, that's great, no problem. You can have your opinion, or you can have the thoughts that you have, no problem. I won't change that at all. And that's fine. I'll actually, I don't listen to it at the time, but obviously thinking back now and listening to myself say this, it's obviously somewhere in the back of my head, because it's creating essentially this conversation about it. But yeah, I mean, at the time, I never let it affect me. I don't dwell on it. I don't think about it. It's just like another interaction with somebody. But you know, the people who are in the arena and people who understand what I'm doing and people who are invested in my journey are the people whose opinions I would care about more.
You know, I think obviously having known you for pretty much every moment of your waking life, I think you've always had a very good ability to bottle things up. And I know a lot of people in this day and age say that as a bad thing, you know, that you shouldn't bottle your feelings up. You shouldn't pack it in a box in the back of store in the back of your brain. Like you said, that it's important that you lean in and unpack these things. But, you know, as an athlete, I actually think it's something that makes people really good at sport, you know, being able to, in the right moments, not react emotionally, to be able to push something to the side, get the task done. But of course, I do think, like we've been talking about this whole time, at some point that stuff needs to be unpacked. Maybe it's not in the moment, but you know, to be able to sit with your thoughts and really dig and lean into them, understand why they've happened, why you're feeling the way you are, and hopefully find some form of strategy to be able to move on and create closure on it, I think is important. But I mean, I know that you've grown so much as an individual and as a human especially over the last few years. But I think it's still nice to hear that it's still something that you're doing, and that we all do. I definitely do it as well. But I think, you know, for people who are hearing everywhere on social media and on podcasts and people talking about mental health, and it's something you shouldn't do. Like, so also it's just nice to hear that there are people who still do it and still struggle with it.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't found the solution yet, but yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot of the time there isn't always a solution to things as well. I think sometimes it's just life. Some people want to see you succeed, some people want to see you burn, and that's just life. Sometimes,
Yeah.
You know, like you said, you listen to some and you ignore others, and you pick and choose your battles, and then you move on. Again, like I don't let it affect me hugely at the time. But like I said, the fact that it's even in the back of my mind now, maybe that could just be like a, you know, accumulation of all that stuff that has been said, or even not even being said. Maybe it's just I heard it once and then I've created a negative self chatter around that. And then that's actually been the main thing about it, the main thing why it's happened. So yeah, I got to dig into that a bit more myself.
Yeah. And I think that's something you are getting a lot better at, is actually just like we're doing right now, just talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, having the vulnerability to actually have a conversation with someone. And sometimes that's all we need. Like sometimes journaling isn't the best thing to do. Sometimes, you know, you just need to have a conversation and just say it out loud. And that is sometimes the best, at least the first step to start understanding it and moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to, I know the weekend itself, for someone who doesn't know you, perhaps who's just looking at you as a fan or watching you compete or looking at the leaderboard, I think a lot of people would say when they think about that career weekend, like you had a bit of a roller coaster journey with regards to results and workouts. Obviously, I know a bit more about, you know, what actually went down in each workout, which perhaps affected the result that ended up being the way it was. But, you know, I think we had some really good finishes within the weekend, and over 6 events, we had probably 2 finishes that ultimately, you know, had a greater impact on where you finish on the leaderboard. And obviously you went into this weekend with the goal of making it to CrossFit Games. And those 2 workouts were the barbell complex, which was a workout that was programmed for every single semi-final. And the next workout was a heavy snatch ladder, where, you know, the last essentially 2 strength events, you know, all the semi-finals, probably the only semi-final that actually had two heavy events over the 6 tests. So what I would love to know is kind of just like, if you can think back, like, you know, leading into the workouts and then coming out of the workouts, like what was that roller coaster journey and how do you feel? And like, what were some of the things going through your mind as you went through? So maybe we start with the first workout. So you had a muscle up, moderate load hang snatch and a row workout, you know, like what were you feeling like first workout of the weekend? You haven't competed in kind of 3 years. Like, what's generally going through your mind at that point?
I was excited about that workout. You know, I'd done it in training. And I did it the way that I wanted to do it in training. And yeah, I thought that'd be a good time, to be honest. I thought like there's not much else I could have done to do that. to do the time that I did, and I don't think I could go really that much faster. Went unbroken through it, tried like a hang power snatch variation, which I hadn't really done that much of before. So I was like, yeah, sweet. I felt really good about that workout. I basically put it as almost exactly how the floor ended up being. Step out on the floor, confident. I knew that the other competitors in my heat, I had guys like Roman Krenikov, I had Alexander Ilin, I had other guys in there who I know are very, very capable athletes. But I also knew that I needed to run my own race because I knew that guys would go out hot and then die in the third round or whatever it might be. And I think I'm pretty good at doing that anyway. So 3, 2, 1.
You mean you're pretty good at going out hot and dying in the third round?
No, pretty good at staying my own lane.
Yeah,
I go through the workout. Round 1, fine, exactly how I wanted to go, and it felt no problem. I was sitting in probably 4th at that point in my heat, 4th or 5th. Round 2 comes. I hit I think it's my 4th muscle up. Going unbroken through the 9, and I feel a tear in my grip, but I go through still unbroken in that set. Go over to the barbell, do the hang power snatches unbroken, get back to the rower. I'm now sitting in, I think I was in 3rd at this point now, so I'd moved up a place, and I could see I was catching Alexander Ilin, who was sitting in 2nd, who was behind Roman Krenikov. So I knew that I'd catch him. Just by the way that I'm doing my snatches, I know he already broke in that 2nd round. So I go to my 3rd round, jump up to the rings. I'd already forgotten at that point that I tore my grips, but I jump into the rings. As soon as my hands go on the rings, I'd feel the grip just basically completely tear. So then I'm doing muscle ups with a piece of material between my hand and the ring, which is not connected to my actual just gymnastic grip. Left hand is totally fine. My grip's feeling fresh. Going through it, I'm like, oh shit, like my right arm is completely fucked right now. Like I genuinely can't hold the ring. So I come down, I throw off that grip, get it off my hand, jump back up. Left hand feels fine. Right hand is literally like fingertips on the rings. And I was like, shit, that's literally hit me so quick. Managed to get through it, run over to the bar. I pick up the bar, and I could literally not even hold a hook grip in my right hand. It's like slipping out. And I look at the video when I'm doing my hang power snatches, like my right arm is generally like an inch lower of where it's hitting my thigh. And like I said, I did that unbroken in like, I think it was 7:19. I did it when I did it in training, or 7:20, which ended up being pretty much a winning time in that event. And then I think it ended up taking like almost 8:20. So I lost like a lot of time in that hang power snatch. I broke it, I think, twice when I went unbroken in my training. And like my transitions weren't any faster, weren't any slower. I'm almost exactly sure I did it exactly the same as training. And I actually felt really good, apart from my right forearm was just dead. And obviously then that kills your bicep a little bit for the hang power snatch ring muscle up rowing combination. But yeah, so, I was pretty frustrated at that. That was something that's out of my control, but I just made plan B and moved on with it. I'm not going to, kick up a stink mid workout. So got through that. In a bit of a negative headspace. And I also knew that I'd lost a bit of ground where I shouldn't have lost ground, because that's I'm not a big one for putting good workouts, bad workouts for someone, but that's a workout that generally I'm confident going into. So I had hoped for a better result when I compare myself to the rest of the field. But I also knew that I needed to just get on with it pretty quick, because I knew I had my hardest workout coming up, which with me was the barbell complex in event 2.
So let's just like this getting over it quick thing. Obviously, it sounds really easy. Like, it sounds like you're frustrated. You realize that it's nothing that you can control. You adapted well in the workout, and then you just got over it. But what did that actual getting over it process look like? You step off the competition floor. Because obviously, you'd sent me a message, and the message was straight away a photo of your grip, saying like, because obviously, as I'm watching on the television screen, I know how your training run went. I'm seeing how I think it should pan out, and then suddenly, I see you breaking early when you're just about to make a move. And obviously, I can't see that your grip's gone. No one can see that your grip's gone. Yeah. So, there's obviously there's a grieving process there, right? That you had to kind of, I could sense that you had to get something off your chest. You had to just at least let one person know what had just happened. What was that process like?
Yeah. So again, this is probably going back to the question you asked, like, whose opinion do you care about? And, I'm not going to walk around the stadium and be like, oh, look at my fucking grip. It broke, and like show everyone. Like, I
Which
don't give a
some
shit
which
what those.
some people do. Which
No,
some
I know
people do.
some people do. Yeah. Some
Mm.
people will tag it on their Instagram and be like, oh, cheers, and tag the company and be like, you fucked up. I'm not going to games anymore because of you. And I don't do that at all. I can accept that it's a part of the sport. It's a part, we all wear so much fucking equipment that if the shit goes wrong, it goes wrong. You accept it as a part of it. But yeah, I definitely needed to rant for about 5 minutes. And that was, I think, probably towards you and Tammy. One thing which is it's probably different to every other competition I've been at for like the regional semis level, was the fact that I was pretty much there on my own. I had the guys at Team Eliath and I had friends in the CrossFit Yaz team. But really, I didn't really know any of the other competitors. There are a lot of Russian boys there who are very friendly, but they didn't really speak any English. Some of the Korean boys the same. And yeah, I was essentially there on my own. So I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it at the time. So yeah, like you said, I basically ranted a little bit on via a WhatsApp message, a text message. But then once that was done, it's like, right, well, I couldn't have controlled it. I always check my grips. Like, do they look okay? Yeah, they look fine. Okay, go onto the stage. So I checked it. I did what I could. I'd warmed up with them, obviously. I tried them in the warm up. There was nothing that felt bad or off about it. Executed the ring muscle up as I normally would. The grip wasn't any different when I jumped up, and just so happened that this was the workout they broke. Shit happens. I can't do anything about it. I moved on as best I could. Yes, it affected the outcome of my time and my result, and it put me low on the leaderboard. But whatever, like, I can't do anything about it. I'm not fussed about it, but there's no point in now fussing about it. So
Yes.
yeah, and like I said, I needed to turn my attention to the next event, which was important for me to do well in.
So let's go into that next event. We've got the barbell complex now. I know going into this weekend, this is probably the one that you were most anxious for. I think most people know, listen to you on the podcast, like heavy lifting, when your repertoire of what your capabilities are as an athlete is probably the one thing relative to your field of competition that you struggle with the most.
Yeah.
Which is also going into this competition where we said, these other workouts, like we're going to have to really get as much as we can from a points perspective on these other workouts, because and like you said, we try to stay away from talking about good workouts, bad workouts, but you need to give yourself as much of a buffer as possible if there's a workout where potentially you may potentially fall down the leaderboard. If the goal is essentially to hit those top two spots, and you've got a very capable field of competitors with you, then yeah, you've got to do everything you can. So what are you thinking going into this barbell complex? Like, even talk me through like being in the warm up area, or you're around other people, you're seeing their weights. Yeah.
So even leading up to Korea, this barbell complex just felt like dog shit. It felt fucking horrendous. There's not one training session. I must have done it fucking 75 times. But there's not one training session I did with that barbell I felt I can lift more than 105 kg here. Like, felt pathetic, and I was like, why the fuck am I so uncomfortable with everything right now? Why is like my jerk was feeling horrendous, my front rack was feeling terrible, fucking squat was feeling terrible. But then I also kept telling myself, like, look, you're pushing fucking hard in your training right now. Can't really expect to hit a PR in this. Just do something that is good enough in training right now, is going to give you enough confidence so when you get to Korea, then you can fucking unleash the beast. That didn't happen. But so I basically get to Korea, and I don't get phased when people warm up with more weight than me. I don't really give a shit. Like, I'm happy just to be like, hey, can you take that 10 kg back off the bar, please? I need to go back down to lighter weight. And they'll look at me and be like, yeah, fucking, take it off. So I don't care about that. I'm not going to sit in the corner and warm up with the ladies bar and like less weights because they're building heavier than me. And actually in this scenario, I think we all built up to about 120 kg, which, what's that, 265. So we all built up to like 265 kg, and then pretty much everyone went out onto the floor. I didn't really look around. I was sharing a bar with a guy called Aaron Kim, who I know is extremely capable in that complex. I'm pretty sure he hit one of the heaviest across the weekend, over most of the semifinals. He hit 150 kg plus. So yeah, I actually felt really good. My squat felt good. My power clean felt really good. My jerk felt great. So I was like, fuck it, this is going to be way better. I was like, I hit what I hit as a maximal weight in my training sessions in my warm-up area, fucking easy. I was like, this is going to be fine. So I got onto the floor. I hit my first complex pretty comfortably. I power cleaned them all, I think. Maybe squat cleaned the last one. Whereas like in training, I was like fucking catching the bar like off my nipples and driving it back up into my throat. And that just, again, like felt terrible. But this felt like smooth. It felt comfortable. But then when I got to my jerk on the first one that I'd hit, I hit the jerk and I felt my back foot slip. And my platform was a wooden platform. It was like slats of wood. And it was like some makeshift piece of rubber put together. And then every other platform on the floor, which was, I think there was 7 other platforms, were all like Eleiko standard platforms, like metal rim around a nice bit of rubber and wood, whatever. Just so happens that I got put in a shitty one, and my foot moved a little bit, and I asked my judge, I said, hey, that fucking piece of wood has just fallen off my platform. Can you do something about it? So I then took it upon myself to take one of my weight plates and like shove it behind my platform to make sure it stayed still. I didn't really think anything of it, to be honest. Like, again, that could probably throw a lot of people, but like, whatever, it's just what it is. I then go into my next lift. I go up in 10 kg jump to like 130, I think it was. Hit the 3 cleans really comfortably, hit my 2 front squats really comfortably, and go for the jerk. And I just missed the jerk. I've been having like some weird thing I've been telling you about. Like my right arm just feels like really powerless when I try and go overhead. And that kind of showed up. But I actually wasn't too worried. I was like, oh, fuck, I'll hit that jerk again. If I need to go up, I'll go up. But I didn't. I just left the same weight, and I was like, I'll just do that complex again, and that will basically be my damage control. And basically the same thing happened in my third set. I power clean, squat clean, 2 front squats, all comfortable, miss the jerk. Yeah, so coming off the floor, I was, there's some other stuff that happened with the platform, which I don't think it shook me mentally or anything like that, or physically. There was just a bit of time wasted arguing with a judge about something. But yeah, I think the jerk just let me down. Execution was a little bit poor on the jerk. The cleans I felt executed really well. The front squats were fine. Yeah, just technical on the jerk. And that's not a really surprise. As I was leading into it, I wasn't feeling great on the jerk. I didn't have anything in the back of my mind which was telling me like, you're gonna miss the jerk. I was actually thinking the whole time like, you're gonna fucking nail this jerk, and you probably should have gone up in weight, is actually what I was thinking. And then I fucking missed it for the third set, and I was like, oh shit, that's gonna fuck me. Missed it. A lot of boys had a lot of weight in that heat, even the heat before me, a lot of big weights being chucked about. So yeah, that was disappointing. It was disappointing more in the fact that I felt so good in the warm up, and I was excited to actually go out there and hit a lot more than I'd expected to hit, or expectation from my warm ups and training. So coming off the floor, I was like, fuck, like that was really quite shit. Yeah, and just again, disappointment in myself and no one else really. Yeah, just a technical thing on the jerk. So yeah, that was it though. But again, like, I knew it was going to be a bit of a damage control event. Probably did more damage than it should have done. But again, it's happened. It's done. I know there's 4 other events which I can make amends on, and I can do well still on. So it's a long weekend still to go. Rant if you need to rant, which I didn't really rant about that one. But yeah, just got to focus on event 3. Is basically what I was telling myself in my head. I never checked the leaderboard. Actually, on the first 2 days, I just didn't check it. I knew it wouldn't be where I wanted it to be, but I also knew that I had 4 events to move me up the leaderboard after that.
Had you had 2 really good first events for the first 2, do you think you would have checked the leaderboard?
No, unless I was maybe in like first to third the entire time, then it would be more relevant. Okay, like, you're in a top 2 spot, and this is what we now need to do to hold on to the qualifying spot. I knew I wasn't in either of those spots, so it's irrelevant to me at that time.
So at this point in time, you've had, I guess you've had one disappointment that's been somewhat uncontrollable. You've had one
Yeah.
disappointment which perhaps it was controllable. End of the day, like going back to those fears of like thoughts or expectations from other people, like are any of those things creeping into your mind now at the end of day one? Like you're back in your hotel room, like how are you feeling?
Yeah, no, I didn't have any of that.
Hmm.
None of that stuff came in when I'm in my competition. Like that's all like pre and post. It's not when it's
Hmm.
in the middle of it. I don't really think about that sort of thing. To be honest,
Yeah.
doesn't creep in.
So take us through day two now. And like just quick question. And I think I know the answer, but like how do you sleep? Like you've had a massive day of competition. Like, did you sleep well that night? Did you come the next day
Uh,
feeling
com-
refreshed?
Competition. I never really sleep as well as a regular day in the life of. Um, but it wasn't terrible. I think I probably would have got a minimum of 6 hours, which is good enough for me at that point in time.
Mm.
When I come to competition, I know I'm going to be probably slamming a couple of coffees here and there and having a coffee maybe later than I normally would, and just like sacrifice what I can in order to pull the last drop of performance out of my body, and I'll deal with the repercussions the next week as I deload and travel and all that sort of stuff. But
Mm.
no, yeah, going into day two, a few guys have been like, "Oh shit, like you need to get there earlier because you're in heat 3." I'm like, "Oh fuck, shit." Okay. Anyways, heat 3, whatever. I got to make sure that I do fucking well in this event. It's a legless rope climb event. Was it legless rope climb event? Yeah, legless rope climb event.
Mm.
I need to do well. I know I'm confident with this, and you know it doesn't. I don't think it matters which heat you're in on this one. Like, there's going to be fast times in heat 1. There's going to be fast times in heat 4. So yeah, that event came out. I was going head to head with the guy in the lane next to me who was basically leading for the first 8 rounds. And the last 2 rounds I overtook him. Ended up being a pretty good time. So yeah, set a good tone really for the second day.
I mean, that was a unique workout because you did that workout in 2014, and it was a
I did.
workout that you did well in 2014. And
Yeah.
since then, I would say in 2014, strict pulling strength wasn't necessarily a strength of yours or something
Yeah.
that you'd put a lot of time into. But I know now that I think strict pulling strength is actually kind of one of the strongest movements in the sport. So you obviously got the confidence knowing that you did well, 8 years ago. And I remember I had messaged you having watched everyone else go in all the semifinals. And I think my question was, do you think you could go sub 3 in this workout?
Yeah.
Because that's what the top guys were putting in. That's the scores the top guys were putting in the other semifinals. And your answer was, yeah, I think I can go
I
sub 3.
also wasn't doing it in training. Right. I tried it like
Yeah.
twice in full in training. Number one, the run that I was doing in training, although it was a measurement they say to the T, was not. Yeah, it was much longer what I was doing in training. And also
Yeah.
the rope I was climbing to 15 foot at CrossFit Goliath was a true 15 foot. I'd measured it, stood there with a tape measure. The ropes at regionals were not, oh, sorry, not regionals, semifinals were not 15 feet. Like, I was taking 5 to 6 pulls at Goliath, and I was taking 2 to 3 at the semifinals. And I was happily free falling from the top. I would look down from the rope at Goliath, but there's no fucking way I'm dropping from the top on this. And I would slide down every single rep. So that made a huge difference as well. Yeah, so that, like, actually, during the lead up weeks towards that, when like other semifinals started to go, I was asking people, I'm like, fuck, what is your rope like? They're like, yeah, it's way easier. It's way shorter than what I've been practicing at home. What's the shuttle run like? Yeah, it's fine. It's like, it doesn't even get any longer. It actually feels better than what I did in my gym. That gave me a bit of confidence going in, because yeah, doing that, I was like, fuck, I feel like I should be moving faster up these ropes. I remember in 2014, I was much quicker on these ropes. And I remember being opposite Taylor Rank in my semi-final, who actually ended up getting the fastest time out of everyone across the world in 2014. And he was doing it in like 2 to 3 pulls, and I was only 3 to 4 pulls. And when I'm at Goliath, I'm like, fuck, on my last one, I went up to 8 pulls. Like, what the fuck happened? So I was like, am I getting worse? Like, am I heavier? I don't get it. But then, yeah, so a little bit of self-doubt going into that, but I still had confidence that I would be better than everyone else in my field or a lot of other people in my field.
But I think there's an important thing to take out of that, which is like at the end of the day, like you had confidence, you just got to work it out anyway.
Yeah.
It was, you had all this unknown, you trained it and it felt terrible. Yes, whilst it helps asking other people in other semifinals if their rope was shorter, but that doesn't mean that your rope is going to be shorter in your semifinals.
Yeah.
Because I think I have heard from athletes in Copa del Sur who compete in South America who actually said they think their rope was actually higher. That was probably the only semifinal where it was higher. But at the end of the day, I guess going back to what we talked about at the start, like there's nothing you can do if you're creating you're creating these outcomes in your head that the rope is going to be higher, it's going to be shorter. Like at the end of the day, you just have to get out there and just do what you can do anyway.
Yeah, well, exactly. Then the other 39 people are also doing the same rope height, so it doesn't make a difference. And I've also, if believing what's true, what people are saying, I'm essentially been training it to a harder degree, so I'll be fine.
Yes. Yeah. Obviously, it can definitely weigh into something like a strategy, though. Like if the rope is different and you've got a really carefully crafted strategy for how you're going to attack it, it could definitely affect it, of course. So we should be
for sure
completely ignorant of that. Okay, so you come out that workout. I'm guessing you're feeling pretty good at this point. Like it was also a really fun battle. Like you and that guy who was kind of toying for that first spot on your heat, putting a really good time. I think you took, was it third best time on that event?
Yeah, I think so.
Fourth,
yeah. Third or fourth. Yeah.
So how are you feeling now? You've had two tough events to start day one. You started day two on a bit of a high. Like, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I felt pretty good, to be honest. Yeah, like I said, I felt confident going into that workout. So it was nice to be able to kind of showcase what I felt like I could do in that workout, whereas workout 1 and 2 was the opposite end of the spectrum. So yeah, it was nice to be able to do that for sure.
So we're now coming into probably like sorry to interrupt, but coming into a pretty hard event now. You got that heavy snatch event.
Yeah, so moving to heavy snatch event, we'd done like a touch on it. And we just went to the second last bar. The last bar would basically be like the heaviest bar for me ever lifting it. But I felt confident again in my warm-up. I felt great. Felt really good. It was a double under into handstand walk into a snatch. The double unders, 200 double unders, and then like 100 feet handstand walk, I think, were pretty much a non-event. It all came down to the snatch ladder. It was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and increasingly heavier loads. Felt really good going through it. And I felt confident of hitting the last bar. I missed it twice, and on the third time, I caught it. And as I went to start to stand up, the barbell just pulled slightly behind me and lost the bar behind me and hurt my elbow a little bit as it went back. Just basically strained the tendon in my elbow. I went back to do another attempt, but kind of I did an Ant Haynes and did a pretend deadlift to my knee and then just dropped it.
Which means that you can never, ever give me shit for doing a pretend deadlift to the knee. I was also watching you thinking.
I was confident. I was going to do it. I was going to do it. But as soon as I picked it up, my elbow sent like a shooting pain through it. I was like, I can't pull on that bar, so there's no way I'm going to be able to snatch it. So I stepped into it expecting to actually try and hit that snatch. I wasn't going to just do a deadlift. That was, I was happy. I was fairly happy. I could have been happier coming off the floor with that. But I actually felt emotionally and mentally quite pleased and proud of how I hit that workout and how close I was to hitting that last barbell. And then about 10 minutes later, someone told me where it ended up putting me in that workout. And that actually dampened the mood a little bit. I was like, fuck, I didn't think it would be so bad. I didn't think it would put me so fucking far down the leaderboard. And then I thought, okay, fuck, my chances of qualifying now out the window. They're gone. That's it. My weekend's finished. No matter if I win the next 2 events, I don't think I'm going to be able to do enough to put myself in a position to qualify, because the guys who are currently sitting in first and second were basically between first and fourth the entire weekend. And I got 2 really shit finishes, which had screwed me up and put me in a unfavorable position and had basically taken me out of qualifying position. So yeah, that's how I basically ended day 2. I was certainly not ready to keel over and die. I knew the position of last chance qualifiers is the next 3 down out of second place. Yeah, so I wasn't just gonna fucking turn up and just go through the motions on day 3. So my protocols and my procedures still stay the same on day 2. I go home, I do all that I can to put me in the best position possible to do it, give the best performance on day 3, which actually, looking at day 3, it was like a much better day for me. Yes, results wise, but even just looking at the workouts, there's no real heavy barbells there. I was definitely concerned about my elbow. I was worried about how it was going to feel. There was quite a lot of swelling in the elbow. And, the medical team are like, okay, we're going to go tell the CrossFit HQ lady that you're pulling out. I was like, no, don't. I was like, whoa, fucking don't do that. I was like, I'm just asking you to check it. And like, that's all I need to do. Like, I don't need anything else. I was like, can you give me some drugs? Is basically, so can you give me some anti-inflammatories and stuff? No, we can't do that. Here's some Korean words on a piece of paper. Go to a pharmacy and do that. And by that point, none of the pharmacies were open anyway. It was later on a Saturday night. So I thought, fuck it. If I wake up in the morning and I can't bend my elbow, then I won't do it. And I'll go to warm up area and see what I can do. And I'll just move on from there. But either way, I'm going to do my recovery and go to bed as if I'm competing for a spot tomorrow. So my spirits weren't dampened and I wasn't negative about it at all. Yeah. Do you have anything?
But I mean, yeah. So, but the moment you come into the competition where it's like, okay, my goal is to punch a ticket to CrossFit Games. I've got to finish one or two. That's the goal. And now you've realized that now that goal is out of reach.
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of people would think, kind of, what's the point? Or at least, let me finish this off. But I mean, I guess your focus was then going to last chance qualifiers and saying like, you still need the goal. I still have a chance here to make it, which means I still need to give it my all.
Yeah, I think the last chance didn't really come into my head until after event 5. But it's more about like how I want to be perceived when I'm doing these workouts, how I want to feel afterwards. Do I want to go out there instead of standard of, I was coaching the guys at Eliath and they were actually in a very similar situation. They really couldn't qualify unless CrossFit Yaz had a complete stinker, which they weren't gonna because the rest of the field weren't good enough. So I don't want to set an example or, I big believer in like how you do anything is how you do everything. And I didn't want to be like, fuck it, I'm not qualifying anymore. Just go out there and I'm going to fuck about, or I'm going to just send it and just see what happens. Like, I'm not doing that shit. Like, I put so much time and effort into this. I still want to perform to the best of my ability and see what I can do for myself, not for anyone else. So I'm not going to go out. And it's a big financial commitment and time commitment to be here as well. I'm not here to fuck about, basically. Yeah, so I got to day 3. My body actually felt pretty good. My elbow was really stiff. So like this movement up and down was totally fine. But as soon as I would internally rotate my shoulder or like go to any sort of like extreme and internal and external rotation and then try to lock my arm out, it was really painful. And any sort of rotations in my wrist whilst my arms locked out was sore. So when I was here and then trying to rotate in and out was painful. But I looked at the workouts. I was like, right, well, workout 6 is going to be totally fine unless I can't actually support a dumbbell in a suitcase position. I'm going to be totally fine. So whatever, I'm going to try workout 6. Workout 5, I was a bit worried about the heavy dumbbell snatches and about the handstand push-ups. So were the two movements I was more worried about. So I went to the warm-up area anyway, kind of like did some push-ups, kicked into a handstand. I was like, oh, it actually feels totally fine. Whatever. I'm going to go get it strapped anyway, just so I have some support just in case. I don't have like an elbow brace or an elbow sleeve, so I'll get some strapping on it, which actually was fucking useless because by about 2 minutes into my warm-up, it was already hanging off. But whatever. I did that anyway just for, I guess, a bit of peace of mind and a bit of confidence in the actual elbow and joint itself. So I start warming up, handstand push-ups. I'm like, actually, that feels fine. It doesn't really hurt at all. I'm inside the box and I'm outside the box. I'm narrow and wide. There's no pain. I'm locking out. Then I jumped up to a pull-up bar. No problem on that. I had toast bar in that workout. That was all good. I actually did a couple of dumbbell snatches. Felt a bit stiff, but no like searing pain. Picked up the wall ball. Did a couple of wall balls. And then as I did like my 6th wall ball, someone jumped on the rig. The warm-up area was horrendous for the Korean semifinals, by the way. But I'm used to that with Asian competitions under the CrossFit banner. So someone jumped up onto the pull-up bar as I was doing it, and it moved the wall ball target. So then the wall ball fell in front of me. And as I tried to catch it, it like fucking hurt my elbow. And I think it's just like any movement out here where I'm like really contracting hard through my biceps and then squeezing it at the same time, like put a lot of pressure on my elbow. I was like, oh shit. I'll try to do another set of wall balls. Picked it up and it felt fine. I deliberately did the same thing and it really hurt. I was like, right, well, so I just thought, okay, well, fuck it. If it's in a workout and the balls are in front of me, I'll just let it hit the floor, pick it up and start again. Like it's not killing me to do this. It'll be okay. The run was fine, obviously. Box jump over is fine. So yeah, go out and do the workout. I go out onto the floor. I do the handstand push-ups, do the wall balls, do the dumbbell snatch. I'm doing well, I believe. I'm way ahead of my time in training. Yeah, and I felt really good when I was on that runner. That was like basically the midpoint of the workout. Come off the GHD sit-ups. I did those unbroken. They felt way better than they did in training as well. I remember in training I was like breathing hard, but I felt really good doing these ones. Jump up to the pull-up bar for my 40 toes to bar, and as I jump into my second rep, my new pair of grips, which is literally a brand spanking new pair of grips, then tears. Like it's a full tear straight away on the same hand, same position, torn. And I was like, "This, you got to be fucking kidding me!" And I remember I used to do toes to bar and kipping all the time with just my fingertips on the bar. I never used to use grips. And then suddenly this happened, and I was like, well, that's fucked. And I've got no more strength left in my fingers already. So like, as I'm thinking about training for 2023, I need to do more grip work and stop relying on my grips so much. But irrespective, at the time, I was like, fuck, my left arm is again completely fine. I'm literally doing toes to bar and slipping off. My left arm's straight and my right arm's like bent, trying to hold on to it. Anyways, when I did that in training, I did that in 3 sets, and I'm pretty sure I did it in like 9 sets here, in Korea. And I was like doing like doubles, not because my midline or anything, because it could GHD into a toes to bar. My midline totally fine. It's just my right hand grip just could not hold onto the bar for anything. So that sucked. Get off, go to the box jump overs, and that was fine. I still finished ahead of my time, like a fair bit ahead of my time in training, but I could have been. I would have set I'd say a top 2 time for that workout if it hadn't have been for that unfortunate mishap again. So that sucks. Sent a photo, ranted a little bit about it again, but I also knew like, okay, fuck it. Firstly, you're healthy. You just got through that workout, no problem. There was no pain there. You still actually did fairly well, relatively well for you. B, you got another workout to do, and you can do well in this workout. Like, I think I didn't know how this workout would be. Generally speaking, I think a lot of the workouts for this semifinals are programmed for big boys. The top 3 guys are all over 6 foot and they're all over 100 kg. And it's no surprise that they're doing well when you look at the workouts that were programmed. But I was like, I don't know how people are with dumbbells. I feel like I'm pretty good at doing lunges in like relative to the rest of the sport. And I also feel like I'm pretty good at dumbbells and doing that sort of weird shit that people don't normally train. Everything's normally with the barbell. So then I watched event 6 pretty closely, watching the guys go. Unfortunately, I wasn't in the last heat. I had moved up to a last heat spot, but they didn't reshuffle the heats. So, going into that, I just had no idea where the guys who I think I should be going against, which is the top heat, I had no idea what sort of pace they would do. So I was like, fuck, I just got to go as hard as I can here. It's just going to be a short workout. I did it in training. I got through it in training, but I was being a bit of a bitch when I did it in training. I was just like not really going at it as hard as I could because I was just, trying to stay injury free and basically feel the workout, because it's not a workout that I look at and I'm scared of, or I'm like, I need to do something in training to give me confidence. So I took it very easy in training when I did it. So yeah, watching the first 2 heats go, like guys were fucking struggling. They couldn't hold on to it anymore. They would drop in they wouldn't even get to the farmer's carries. People couldn't get through the lunges. When I did it in training, I broke up lunges 4 times. And I was like, you know what, fuck it. When I get out there, I'm going to try just hold on and see what happens. This is like a short enough workout where I can just chance it. If I do well, I have a chance now of going to last chance qualifier. If I blow up, I blow up. I'm still not going to qualify either way. So I'm just going to try. I'm just going to basically throw a Hail Mary here. So yeah, 3, 2, 1. The event 6 goes underway. Like I said, I'm sitting. I don't know where I was sitting. Was I sitting like 8th or 9th?
I think
going into
you
that
were well.
workout.
You should have you would have had the last spot in the first heat. So I think you would in the last heat. So I think you were at eighth.
Okay, yeah. So I was eighth. And like I said, the guys, everyone basically in my heat now is 8 places below me. So it doesn't really matter what these guys do. I need to basically put up a time that's going to be competitive with the heat one. Oh, sorry, heat four, the last heat. Yeah, so off we go. It starts with 50 dumbbell deadlifts. Um, by the end of the deadlifts, I'm pretty sure I was in like fifth place in my heat already. I was choosing like to break it up a little bit. I think I went definitely way more aggressive than I did in training. But these guys were going like 50 double dumbbell deadlifts unbroken with 100 pounds. I was like, fuck, these guys are flying. Maybe this is a good heat. Maybe these guys are going to bury me. Finished the 50 dumbbell deadlifts. Everyone was kind of still on like that starting line for the lunges. And I'm pretty sure I was the first person to pick them up and just start my lunges. I went, was it 100 feet? 50 feet one way. So it's 100 feet in total, 50 feet, 50 feet. 50 feet unbroken, put him down quickly, picked him back up, 50 feet unbroken, put him down, and then did 200 feet worth of farmer's carry unbroken. And it ended up being, I'm pretty sure, a second place time, a couple of seconds behind first place, who was Krenikov. But yeah, I'm happy how the event went, and luckily that going harder and taking that chance in that final workout bumped me into a last chance qualifier spot. But yeah, I finished the weekend with a good day of competing. Absolutely disappointed that I was not in the top two spots, but also still happy about how and content of how I carried myself in my first competition in 3 years, how I felt as my body and my mind, how I felt. Also, how I compared to the other guys out there, because I wasn't sure if I was going to still hold up a decent level at this time in my life and my career. So yeah, I think I definitely came away with happy memories and happy thoughts about it all, versus pure disappointment and nothing else.
So I mean, obviously, what then happens after this? You fly back to Dubai. You take part in last chance qualifiers.
Yeah.
And I think we'll save that for another podcast. But essentially, we are not able to qualify to the CrossFit Games via last chance qualifiers. Again, a couple of uncontrollable things made that a little bit more challenging for you as well. But you still did it. You still persevered. So I guess my final question for you to wrap up this conversation is, when you look back on this entire season, when I talk about, I guess, a season, we're really talking about making a decision to leave Hong Kong, go to Dubai, and do your best to get back and achieve your goal of getting to the CrossFit Games. What are some of the biggest lessons? What are some of the biggest takeaways that you will take from this season? Maybe not even necessarily just as an athlete, but as a person as well.
I think if you want to do this sport at that level now, you have to take it seriously. It's the first thing, the actual physical side and the mental side. Like, if you're working a full-time job, and you're trying to give that 100%, you can't give 100% to being an athlete. So yeah, you have to set your priorities into the right order in order to be successful. You can definitely still be successful, but depends on what you deem successful. If you want to get to the CrossFit Games, I don't think you can do that anymore. I think you got to maybe work a couple of hours a week, and everything else is just focus on eating, sleeping, and training. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned there's probably two things I've learned as a person. I think the first one was that I was absolutely shitting myself, packing a bag and upping and leaving for potentially up to, at that time, 4 months. I'd never really done that before. I've gone to university, but I always knew I was coming back to Hong Kong straight away. But with like the quarantine and the COVID stuff all happening in Hong Kong, there was a lot of unknown about when I'd be back and when I'd see my family, friends, and girlfriend again. And yeah, that was very scary. I felt a lot of guilt doing that, but I also know that I had a lot of support from back home, and that was invaluable to me for making my decision and allowing me to do that. And I've had a great time, and I'm super grateful and thankful to those people who just told me to just fucking do it. Like, just go and take the opportunity. You don't want to look back in a year's, 10 years, 20 years time and be like, fuck, I wish I went to Dubai and I wish I did that. I wish I actually took the opportunity. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that. And, I guess just knowing that I have that support system around me was amazing. But I think the second thing I learned as a person was that um, I kind of I'd fallen away from my Hong Kong circle a little bit. I'd left, by the end of the trip, when if things still matter, but by the time I knew that essentially my season was over and like I needed to stop focusing on competing, I'd realized that actually, I'd probably not burnt bridges, but I'd probably upset a few people in Hong Kong, whether it was my family, my girlfriend, you as my brother, and then I guess my boss as well, colleagues, people I'd just kind of fallen out of touch with. I just realized that my communication had been a bit poor, and I'd almost fallen into like a second life over in Dubai, which was, it was great. The guys over in Dubai are all good people, and I had a great time and made some really good friends out there. But I also realized that I should not have neglected, the people who initially set me on this journey. And that was quite a hard week of some conversations that were very challenging at the time. Conversations with my parents, our parents, conversations with you, conversations with Tammy. A lot of things were said that I didn't really want to hear, but I needed to hear it. A lot of things were said which I didn't realize because, again, like I didn't have anyone to really soundboard them off, or it's not something that crossed my mind until someone's like, hey, like, this is the shit you've been doing. You need to realize that maybe it's not the right thing to do, or do you think it's the right thing to do? And I'd say, no, I don't think that's right. And like, well, why the fuck are you doing it, sort of thing. So yeah, like having to hear that from people who you care about and who you love is definitely challenging and tough. And I had a hard week of that, and sleep was definitely affected. And even doing that sort of stuff, I could feel myself just being frustrated at myself and being frustrated at struggling to communicate with those people from my end. So like a lot of that fell on my shoulders, and yeah, that was a tough week. But I've been able to hear those people out, and they've been kind enough to listen to my side of things as well and see where I'm from, and I guess kind of forgive me to an extent to allow me to move forward. So yeah, those are my wins and my losses, I guess, as a person being out here, and obviously the athlete side of things is a bit different. But yeah.
So what is this? And thank you for sharing all of that, Ant. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate the vulnerability of the challenges, and I think it's you pursue this journey, your priorities changed, but I guess the biggest thing is like you've got to still remember the other things that are important to you and how you can balance it all. That's always just the hardest part of what we're trying to do in life, is just trying to find balance between the things that are important to us. So I guess the ultimate question is now, like, what does this mean for next year? The experience you've had this year, what does that mean for next year, as you as a person, as you as an athlete?
Yeah, I think I gotta I've planted a lot of seeds over in Dubai, and I guess I've watered those seeds and the plant's kind of grown, and I've had great relationships growing over there, and it's been an amazing time, and I definitely want to be back soon at some point. But it also means that I need to remember to do that back in my plants that I've planted back in Hong Kong, and I need to make sure that I keep giving love to those relationships, because those are the ones that I've been with for longer. Doesn't mean that I take away from the Dubai ones. I just need to give more back to the Hong Kong ones, and just kind of just like don't forget my roots, and don't forget the people who are really supporting me, and the people who were there at the beginning, because they're still just as important, if not more important. As me as an athlete, it's I still want to compete. I still want to do this. I still want to be here. I still feel relevant in the sport. My body still feels good. My mind still wants to do it. There's nothing that's telling me that you should stop right now. So, I am very aware that I'm probably moving towards the twilight years in my career, but I feel like I'm still getting better. I feel like I'm still progressing forwards, and I'm still enjoying it. And I love it just as much as my first regionals that I did in 2014. I will definitely have to, reconsider some priorities in terms of my workload, my social life, and my training. And that just comes with balance, which I definitely have struggled with in previous years. I've started living off like some poor sleep and some crazy packed schedules, and I just said like it just kind of accepted it. But I don't think that's the way anyone should live. Just accepting that shit is getting hard, and you just sit there and wait for it to not be hard anymore. You got to put systems and things in place in order to help ease that burden. And luckily, I have a great team back at the process and Coastal that is growing, and it's a super solid team, and they're all willing to help out and willing to, help. They want to see me succeed as well. So if they can be a part of my journey and I can be a part of theirs, and reaching out for some help never hurt people. So maybe learning to do that a little bit more as well for next year. Actually asking for a bit more help when things get hard and things get a little bit rough, rather than shouldering it all on my own. But yeah, next year I'm still going to be in this space, and I'm still going to have the same goal, which is to qualify for the 2023 CrossFit Games.
And thank you very much for sharing.
We'll
see you back here soon.
Cheers.